Welcome into Caldwell County today. I'm Eric Stafford, Public Information Technician at the Caldwell County Government Channel, and I'm here with two of Caldwell County's incredibly well-known artists, for years, well-known artists. And they don't look that way, but they've been around a while. I've been watching their art for a while. Of course, we have Miss Mary Dobbin here, and we have Margaret Martine. Now,
pronounce martini like the drink.
Martini like the drink.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to get better with that. But when I was a young lad, she swept me away to New York City.
Wow.
Along with another class of her students.
South Caldwell.
and South Caldwell and West Caldwell, and we went to New York to the Guggenheim and the Modern Museum of Art. So she's been a big part of my arts education. And we're just happy. They have a new show. That's what we're here to talk about. I'm sorry, I just totally got off on the tangent. But we're here talking about them being together again because they're back. They're back. And so is art in Caldwell County, because you can now come to the Caldwell Arts Council and see shows again after all this COVID mess. So we're fine. And this is the first show that the board chose to do, was to have you guys back, because you had a show scheduled last year. Mm-hmm. And then you didn't get to do it, of course. And so I really want to ask, and especially you, Mary, what did you take that year to do more work, or how did that work out?
Yes, actually, I wondered how I would have ever been ready last year, because it was great to have that time home. We were staying home a lot, and I just painted every day for the most part.
But do you not paint every day anyway?
No, I try to.
If I was as talented as you, I would paint every day, I think. But you try to.
I try to, but sometimes we have art meetings and other things. But it was great to have the extra time, to be honest.
Okay, and so you added some more work to the show then?
Yeah, I don't think anything was finished last year. It was all finished this year.
Wow.
I mean, some of it was older, but.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And Margaret, now you went in a little bit of a different direction. You've taken up a new art form.
I have. During that time that we were isolated at home, and I live in an isolated place anyway, at the end of the world in Caldwell County, way out in the country, still on a dirt road, I decided that I would create our own Garden of Eden, since we couldn't go anywhere. So I started doing mosaics, and I had been playing around with mosaics for several years on incorporating them into paintings, and I decided to go totally 100% mosaic, which I did bleed a lot because you do get cut on the glass while you're doing mosaics, but it's okay. There's Band-Aids. But I ended up putting flowers all around our outside garden area, so when we went out to have a meal or drink our coffee in the morning, we were surrounded by flowers. And then when the winter hit, the flowers hadn't disappeared. They were still there visually for us outside in our garden. So I sort of created our own fantasy land during the pandemic. I am a painter, and it was amazing how much of what I know about painting ended up enabling me to do, I think, better mosaics than I would have otherwise. Just the color sensitivity that you have on how color works together and that kind of thing. So, but I love dimensional things anyway. Mary can tell you that. She's known me forever.
Block building at all times.
Yes.
I love that series when you have the wooden blocks in the
Yeah.
landscape and everything, and portraits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, how long have you guys known each other?
Decades.
Always.
I am the president of Mary's fan club. If you want to be a member of the club, I'm the president.
I'm the president of yours.
Now, even as a young artist, I remember you always winning awards, and you always winning awards.
Yeah, we have a lot of good, healthy adventure in entering contests and things, I'd say.
Yeah, Mary and I have painted on location together, and one time I almost got hit by a truck by a guy that was trying to show off his fancy schmancy truck, and we jumped off an embankment to keep from getting hit. But
did he come back?
Oh yeah, he wanted to kill us, Mary. That's right. We were painting on the Kings Creek, and there's some unusual people out there sometimes that decide they want to scare artists to death who are trying to paint. But Mary and I've had some adventures together, and we're not in competition with each other. We're more in admiration and supportive of each other. Like if, we're honest with each other about each other's work, what we feel like works or what doesn't work, or making a suggestion. I always trust Mary's opinion.
And you were talking about that earlier. Before we started taping, you were talking about how we need to kind of get together more and talk about things and talk about our art because I miss your opinion, and that's just such a great thing to hear.
Mm-hmm. It is. When somebody else speaks to you about your artwork, you appreciate that, but when it's coming from another artist, you really appreciate it.
I have a friend who's a painter, and I sent her a picture that I was working on. She said, "Don't touch it, don't overthink it." And I told her today, I said, "You saved me hours of torture," because
Wow.
she was right. It was finished.
Yeah.
And when I look at it now, I think, thank God I didn't try to fix it.
Well, sometimes it's hard to know when to stop
Very hard.
an artwork.
It can be, and that's a talent in itself, I think.
Definitely. And it's so much fun to paint. Like, I hope we can paint this summer on location together.
Me too.
Because it's just great to look at each other's work. And sometimes that's when you stop, is when it's fresh from nature.
And Mary, I did a painting of you one time when we were painting on location, and I can't find it anywhere. I was going to put it in this show, and I could not find it.
When we were on, was that at Kings Creek? Or,
Yeah, it was whenever we were almost killed.
You did a really beautiful drawing first. I remember that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask this of both of you. Does a muse just hit you, or do you plan to work?
You have to plan to work. For me, I mean, there are times that a muse comes along, and you see a postcard or you see something, you think, oh, that really inspires me. But if I don't have the plan of painting that afternoon, then other things will get in the way, like laundry.
Do you have to make time?
I have to have a schedule, and it's kind of a skimpy schedule, but for me, it's really important because it's it's my starting time.
Yeah.
And I don't always make it, but every day it's the goal.
What time of day?
I didn't want you to ask. 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because
I can paint from 2 to 6,
Oh,
and that's a good time for me to paint.
the afternoon just seems draggy to me. I don't know if I could do that.
Mm.
I'm gonna get up and
You're
go.
more of a
guy.
morning person.
I'm more of a morning.
I wish I were. Margaret's a morning person.
No, I'm not. Oh, no. My painting time and artwork time is at night because I have less distractions and the phone doesn't ring as much, and my husband goes to bed and he isn't even aware when I finally come down to bed after painting for so long or making mosaics. So I find that the nighttime is my best time to work. And I used to be like that before I became a teacher, but my gosh, when you become a teacher and you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you can forget that all night staying up making art.
But now you've been able to paint at night this year.
That's right. I'm no longer teaching public school anymore. So I don't have to get up early. I can sleep in late and paint all night. So.
Wow.
That's interesting. I'm not surprised that you paint at night, but I thought you painted in the morning too, because you seem to be doing a lot.
Well, every now and then I'll slip up there if I think, okay, nothing's happening, I have time to work, and I'll jump right in on it then. So depends on what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And how much of a deadline? If you have a deadline, you're going to paint any time of day you can.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, I got to ask about that. What kind of deadline?
Well, like the show was
the show's
was
deadline.
a big deadline.
Because I would think some of your artwork, just seeing it, it doesn't look like, it looks like you had all the time in the world and you did it. Is the way it seems to me. But I'm not a good color person. I'm more of a design person, so I do a lot of black and white stuff. But
That's a good question. Deadlines really help me because they get me going. But then you can really get into a mode, and you do leave the world behind. So then you don't even know where you're going.
yeah.
And you just see what happens. And then I never trust a nighttime look. Like I'll think, well, I'll look at it in the morning. Because at night, because
the colors aren't the same too.
the colors are different, and also I will just be in a different zone. And this right and left brain is all that's oversimplified, but there is a critic that lives in your brain, and there's a more spacey, accepting person, and you really do want the critic to look at it in the morning, after.
And then sometimes I get angry and upset about something that's happened in the world. And even though I do a lot of artworks that I know nobody in their right mind would ever purchase, I still feel compelled to express my opinion about what happened. So I do.
I'm glad you do.
I do, and I'll end up with a lot of artworks that somebody said, why would you do Kamal Khashoggi? Because I'm still angry that he was chopped up into pieces and that we haven't put any sanctions against Saudi Arabia. I mean, stuff like that. So I can get upset about things, too, that I can't put off doing the artwork. I have to do it immediately while I'm angry.
Margaret, I admire that about you because it's so important to speak out. I mean, that's a platform that you have, and we all have it.
Well, as artists, sometimes we can say more visually than if we wrote a letter to all the senators explaining our upset about this or that or the other, sometimes making the artwork. And you put yourself out there for criticism and somebody giving you a jab like, I don't agree with that. Well, that's great because you have an opinion and I have an opinion, and this happens to be my opinion.
Make your own piece of artwork.
Right. If you feel the other way, right, you do your thing. So.
I remember when you did those little rat traps.
Yeah.
And that was quite amazing. You had it all on that wall, I think they were there. Yeah. And you had, who did you have on those?
Oh my gosh, the majority of them were politicians. There were portraits I had done of horrific things that our leaders said that you just couldn't believe they would say such a thing. And you pull down the little cheese, and I had in very small print what they had said. And and when my mother saw them, my mom said, when you show this in a gallery, make sure you have it printed large for people my age on the title card to be able to read what they said, because my mom was totally for that. And if people were offended, then they got it. If they thought they were lovely, then they didn't get it. So they were meant to be offensive, to make you think, oh my gosh, did the governor of such and such say that?
And just the idea of using mousetraps or rat traps was so perfect. I mean, because they're sort of disgusting. And yet, here you were creative, putting something on.
Do you remember in Forrest Gump that little girl that was throwing rocks at the house where she had been treated badly by her father? And Forrest Gump said, sometimes there aren't enough rocks. Well, sometimes there aren't enough rat traps either.
That's a good euphemism of that. But I also want to take some time. I want to tell you guys to come and see the show. The show runs for 2 months, which is great. Mm-hmm. They're doing extended shows this time around, so that the show will run for 2 months, and all that information's there at the bottom of the screen. And I also want to take just a quick time. I want you guys to pick out a piece and talk to me about it, what you were thinking and how that went.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll pick the one of my mother.
I knew that was her. When I saw it, I was like, that's Margaret.
Right.
So.
Well, sometimes as an artist, you do artwork that you are not satisfied with, and they go into a pile unless you decide to burn it. But my mom, if any of you knew Edith Carter, she was what my daughter used to call a goer woman. To get her to slow down was impossible. But she had lunch with us one Sunday after church, and I said, Mom, could you please pose for me so I could paint you? You never will pose for me. I said, I'll put in the newest version of True Grit movie for you to watch. You really like it a lot. Well, my mother was so intense, and watching that, her expression was so serious. And when I finished the painting, I didn't like it. And so I put it away for years. And then I got it out this past year, and I looked and I thought, the chair looks sort of like the desert mesas that we saw when we did Route 66. And I thought, well, I'll change the chair into a landscape. And then I decided, well, I think I'll start putting some of the elements of that movie that she was watching into the piece. So I ended up liking the piece. But it took years for it to be resolved. So I guess the point is, don't ever give up on a work that you think was a complete disaster. Hang on to it. You may have some epiphany of how you need to change it.
No, okay. Do you have a?
Well, I'll talk about the painting of Jack's. There are 2 paintings of Jack's in the hall.
Okay.
And so that was exciting to me because I was painting it with a group in Hickory, at the Hickory Museum. And actually, one of them I did about 2 years ago, and one is just recently when they opened back up and they were having the class again.
Yeah.
That was wonderful to be back painting with a group. And what I like about my piece is I'm a big fan of Alice Neal. And so she's having a big show, even though she's no longer living, they're having a big show of her work at the Metropolitan Museum this summer. And I love the way she outlines in blue. So I thought, I'm going to do that Alice Neal thing. And so I like the painting, the second
Those are
one.
fabulous pieces.
Thank you. But I like it that I allowed myself to imagine using some of her strokes.
Yeah, and it's amazing how even now, I mean, you get inspiration from people you've known and followed their work your whole life.
Oh, yeah, I know. She is wonderful. She was painting all her neighbors, people that nobody else was painting at the time, and now people are looking at her and realizing what a great painter she is. She was.
Very expressive.
And I'm here with two of the most talented women that I've ever met, and especially here in Caldwell County, and you've got to come see this show. The colors themselves will blind you. It's just beautiful. And
Mary has knocked Henri Matisse out of the history books. He's going to just have to take a back seat to Mary. Her color is exquisite.
And it's just, everything's so beautiful. Everything is so beautiful. And when I saw your portrait of your mom, I knew it was her. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was her. And she used to have us students, especially if you were a senior, I think it was seniors, she would have us sit for her, and she would give us a pastel. And I've still got mine. But she told me, she said, well, you're an artist, so I can have fun with yours. And she put a lot of greens in my face and stuff, and she went crazy with the colors on it. And I said, that's great, that's what I wanted her to do. But I still have it, and it's a cherished thing in my house. I love that portrait that she did for us, and it was just her senior gift for everybody. And I'm sure.
She did that for years. She did that at Lenoir High School.
I told her, don't tell my students that you're doing this.
It took her the whole year to do all the seniors. It took her that long. So I remember sitting for her quite a bit.
Well, living with art makes life, just everyday life better. I love waking up and seeing the artwork. I collect artwork by other artists too, and I love waking up and seeing those pieces in my house. And you're the same way.
I know, it's like friends.
And it just inspires you and makes you feel good. Sometimes it just makes you feel good.
Yep.
So come out and see the show together again here at the Caldwell Arts Council, and right here on College Avenue in downtown Lenoir, and come out and see the show and buy some work. Because have it in your house. Beautiful pieces of artwork. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for all your talent.
Much.
And man, I admire both of them so much, and it's just, they're just great. They're great. You got to come see this show.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is what we like to do. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.